The Story Vault presents The Berserker, Episode 5, Beneath the Ice. The wind howls through the valley, twisting between the trees, dragging sheets of snow across the frozen ground. The world is white, endless, stretching in all directions like a great void. Footsteps crunch softly against the ice-crusted snow, one pair heavy and sure, the other lighter, struggling to keep up. The Berserker moves like a beast in its element, his shoulders hunched against the cold, eyes scanning the wilderness. The girl follows, wrapped in the furs he gave her breath visible in the frozen air. She stumbles but does not complain. She has learned not to. Somewhere in the distance, the ice groans. The river lies ahead, but something else lingers in the air. A scent, a presence. The Berserker stops. The girl nearly collides with him, confused. "What is it?" she whispers, but the wind steals her words. He does not answer. The weight of his axe shifts in his hand, his storm-grey eyes narrowing. A presence in the trees. The wind dies for a moment, and in that silence, a deep guttural growl rises from the snow-draped woods. Then it steps forward. A wolf, massive, scarred, its golden eyes burning with something primal. Ribs press against its thick fur, hunger carving out its once powerful form. It is alone, an outcast. The girl stiffens. She has seen wolves before, but not like this. Not a beast so large, so deliberate. The Berserker exhales slowly. He understands. This was an alpha once. It ruled a pack, until it lost, defeated, cast out. Now, starving and desperate, it has nothing left to fear. Another gust of wind sweeps between them, a silent challenge. The wolf lowers its head. The Berserker grips his axe. For a long moment, nothing moves. Snow drifts lazily in the air, the fire in the wolf's eyes locked with the storm in the Berserker's. Two predators measuring one another in the frozen wasteland. Then the beast lunges, a blur of fur and muscle. The Berserker shifts his weight, dodging as the wolf's fangs snap inches from his arm. Snow explodes beneath their feet. The axe swings, a deadly arc through the storm. The wolf twists, dodging with unnatural speed, circling low, waiting for an opening. It has done this before. It knows how to kill. The Berserker does not hesitate. He steps forward, pressing the attack, his movements slow but unstoppable, like a glacier carving its way through a mountain. The wolf lunges again. This time he meets it head-on. A massive hand grips its thick mane, yanking the beast sideways, slamming it into the ice. A sharp yelp, but the wolf does not retreat. Then a scream. The girl. A sudden crash. He turns just in time to see her slip through the ice, the dark water swallowing her whole. For a heartbeat, everything is silent. Then chaos. He moves, his axe forgotten. The wolf watches, panting, golden eyes flickering between the fight and the girl's fading form beneath the ice. A choice. For the first time in its life, the wolf does not attack. It only watches. The Berserker reaches the river, his knees slamming onto the cracking ice, hands plunging into the black abyss. The cold is instant, unforgiving. Fingers brush against something soft, her wrist. He grabs her, pulls hard, dragging her from the river's grasp. The girl collapses onto the ice, gasping, her body convulsing in violent shudders. The river has stolen all warmth from her. Her lips are pale, almost blue, her breath coming in short, frantic bursts. The Berserker kneels beside her, his face hard, unreadable, but he knows. She is dying. His hands move fast, checking her, her pulse weak, her skin like ice. She won't last long like this. A sharp gust of wind cuts through them, and the girl lets out a small, strangled noise, barely a sound, more instinct than voice. Her fingers curl against her drenched dress, trying to pull it tighter for warmth, but it is useless. The wet fabric clings to her like ice itself. She will freeze if he does nothing. He doesn't hesitate. Without a word, he grabs the neckline of her dress and rips. The soaked wool tears apart, exposing her shivering form to the frigid air. She gasps, eyes going wide, her body instinctively recoiling, but she is too weak to fight. Her breath comes in short, panicked bursts, but he doesn't stop. "You'll die in wet clothes, girl." His voice is low, rough, unapologetic. Her skin is ice cold beneath his hands as he pulls away the sodden fabric, stripping it from her shoulders, her arms. She trembles violently, her muscles locking up from the sheer, merciless cold. She is barely holding on. She doesn't fight anymore. He pulls a thick fur from his back and wraps it tightly around her, pulling her against his chest. His arms engulf her, his body radiating heat. She whimpers softly as the sudden warmth shocks her frozen limbs. Her hands press weakly against him, fingers clutching at the furs, at him, seeking warmth, seeking life. The wind howls around them, snow swirls in a blinding storm. He grips her closer, his jaw clenched. She is so small, so fragile against him. The tremors rack her body in uncontrollable waves, her breath uneven, fading. He bends his head, his lips close to her ear. "Stay awake." No response. His grip tightens. "Stay awake, girl." She makes a soft, broken sound, half a breath, half a nod. It's enough. He rises to his feet, lifting her effortlessly, her body cradled against him. The frozen world stretches before him, endless and merciless. The cave is far. The storm is growing. He moves. One step, then another. She doesn't speak. She doesn't move. She only clings to him, pressed against the only warmth left in this frozen world. And he does not let go. The cave is small, barely sheltered, but it is enough. The fire roars to life, flames licking hungrily at the dry wood. The light casts flickering shadows against the walls, chasing away the creeping death of the cold. The girl lies before it, still trembling, the fur wrapped tightly around her. But it is not enough. The cold has settled deep into her bones. Her fingers are ashen, her lips barely parted, breath shallow. She will not warm fast enough. The Berserker knows what must be done. He shrugs off his own cloak, the heavy fabric sliding from his shoulders. He kneels beside her, his large hands pulling her closer. Her half-lidded eyes barely focus on him as he loosens the fur around her, exposing her chilled skin to the fire's heat. She tenses weakly, a faint noise of protest escaping her lips. "Need warmth." His voice is rough, final. She does not argue, she cannot. The furs shift as he presses against her, his bare chest against her frozen back, his arms locking around her small frame. The heat of him is immediate, shocking, like fire against ice. She shudders violently, a sharp gasp slipping from her lips. But then, relief. The warmth seeps into her, slow but certain, chasing the death from her limbs. She nestles closer without thinking, her frozen hands gripping his arm, her body seeking the heat of his. He says nothing. He only holds her tighter. Minutes pass, then longer. The fire crackles. The storm rages outside. But here, in the firelight, she breathes, and she will live. The morning after, the wind still howls outside, but the fire has burned low, its embers casting a dull glow over the cave walls. She stirs first, her body sluggish, heavy with exhaustion. The warmth is still there, strong, steady. She shifts slightly and realizes his arms are still around her. The Berserker is awake, his body solid and unmoving behind her, his breath slow, steady. His presence is overwhelming, but not suffocating, not unsafe. She turns her head slightly, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're warm." A beat of silence, then, warmer than the grave. She lets out a breath, half a sigh, half a quiet laugh. It is weak, barely there, but it is something. He shifts behind her, the weight of his presence unmistakable. His grip does not loosen, not yet. She does not mind. Outside, the winter still rages. The ice still groans. The world remains cold and merciless. But here, there is warmth. And for the first time, she closes her eyes without fear. The embers fade to darkness. The storm howls, carrying secrets through the frozen wilderness. A lone wolf cast from its pack. A warrior cast from his world. Both fighting against the cold, against time, against the past. But in this wasteland, only one survived the night. If you enjoyed this tale, let us know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and join us for the next chapter of the Berserker.